Because his 4 kids didn't want to come home, this old man decided to travel across the states, just to visit each of them and see for himself if they were truly happy. And every time he found one of them, he'd ask just one simple question.
You happy?
What do you mean?
You happy?
Yeah, of course I am.
This crazy plan goes back a few days. The night before Thanksgiving, Frank got up early and headed to the store. He not only bought a brand new grill, he also got some premium beef, all to prepare for the kids to come home and spend Thanksgiving with him. But after sitting by the phone for hours, waiting for news that his kids were on their way, all he got was a voicemail saying they were too busy to join the Thanksgiving dinner. As a father, Frank was overwhelmed with disappointment. Ever since his wife passed away 8 months ago, the kids hadn't come back home. Before she passed, she was the bridge between Frank and the kids. They told her everything, but now, things were different. His kids rarely even called. The loneliness hit hard, and he missed them more than ever. After thinking it over, Frank made a bold decision. He was going to travel across the whole country to visit his 4 beloved children. But to surprise them, he decided not to tell anyone. He wrote 4 letters to each of them, packed his things, made sure he had enough medication, and with one last look at the home he'd lived in for 70 years, he set off on his journey. But Frank wasn't sure how long he'd make it. Before retiring, he worked in a job that involved handling wire coatings, and years of hard labor left him with a job-related lung disease. When the doctor heard he planned to travel, he warned him to stay home and rest. A long trip could be dangerous for his health, but the longing to see his kids was too strong. So, he ignored the doctor's advice and hit the road. Along the way, his excitement about seeing his kids couldn't be contained. He even found himself bragging to fellow passengers about how amazing his children were. After a full day of traveling, Frank finally reached his first stop, New York, where his youngest son David lived. Frank always saw David as a successful artist. He couldn't wait to surprise him. But after waiting outside David's apartment building late into the night, his son still hadn't come home. Disappointed, Frank figured maybe David was out celebrating the holiday with friends and decided to grab a bite nearby. On his way, he passed a gallery with some of David's artwork on display. Looking at his son's paintings, memories started flooding back.
What are you gonna do when you grow up, huh?
I want to be a painter and do my pictures.
Not a painter. Christ, painters paint walls and dogs pee on walls. You're gonna be an artist. Artists paint pictures that change people's lives. So what are you gonna be?
An artist.
That's right, an artist. So you're gonna work hard?
Yes, Dad.
You're gonna make me proud?
I'm trying, Dad.
He then went to a 24-hour diner. On Thanksgiving, the place was quiet with just a few scattered customers. An elderly man with gray hair, perhaps out of loneliness, struck up a conversation with Frank. He told Frank that, despite having 3 sons and 6 grandkids, they were all too busy, so he had to spend the holiday alone. Looking at the old man, Frank couldn't help but imagine his own future. Alone, no one to talk to, finding comfort in the company of strangers. The next morning, Frank returned to his son David's apartment. But no matter how hard he knocked, there was no answer. He slid the letter he had written earlier through the door crack and left. What Frank didn't know was that behind that door was just an empty apartment. Frank's next stop was to visit his eldest daughter, Amy. In Frank's eyes, Amy was a successful executive living happily with her husband and son in a wealthy Chicago neighborhood. He rang the doorbell and to his surprise, he met his grandson Jack first. Jack was busy playing video games, and after a brief greeting, he told Frank that his mom was in the backyard. Walking through Amy's lavish house, Frank finally saw his daughter, the one he had been longing to see. Even though Amy was now a company executive, she would always be his little girl.
Amy!
Dad?
But Amy's behavior was odd. She seemed genuinely happy to see him, but there was a nervousness she couldn't hide. Her loving husband wasn't home at that moment either. He didn't come back until late at night. At the dinner table, Jack's rude attitude towards his father made Frank feel like something was definitely being hidden from him. He asked if he could stay a few more days, but Amy quickly made excuses, saying she was too busy with work. So, the next day, Frank set off for the next stop on his journey. Before he left, Frank asked if they could take a family photo, but Jack refused to stand next to his father. This only raised Frank's suspicions further. When Amy drove him to the train station, he finally asked the question that had been on his mind all along.
You happy?
What do you mean?
You happy?
Yeah, of course I am.
Even though Frank noticed the hesitation on Amy's face, he didn't press the issue and set off to visit his eldest son, Robert. In Frank's eyes, Robert was a successful conductor. So, he went straight to the orchestra where Robert worked, even asking a passerby to take a picture of him with the orchestra's poster. But when he walked into the rehearsal, he was shocked to see that the young people on stage weren't his son. Robert was sitting at the very back playing the bass drum. Seeing his father, Robert looked flustered and guilty. After the rehearsal, Frank asked him why he wasn't the conductor. Robert stammered, admitting he had lied to his father and saying that he was happy with his current position. But to Frank, Robert was highly educated and talented. He felt his son's achievements should have been bigger by now. The tension was palpable, so they stepped out to the back door for some fresh air. Frank realized he might have been too hard on his son, so he complimented Robert on his drumming skills. Robert visibly relaxed, and the two of them found some common ground. Robert even introduced his father to his colleague. When it was time to say goodbye, Frank asked the same question he'd been holding in.
And you're happy?
Happy? Yeah. I get paid to bang a big loud drum all day. Of course I'm happy.
As they were about to shake hands, both of them suddenly realized they were family. They should hug instead. Just as Frank was about to leave, he couldn't help but turn back. No matter where Robert was in life, he would always be that smart, kind, and somewhat shy child in Frank's eyes. The last stop on his journey was to visit Rosie in Las Vegas. Frank had thought this would be another surprise visit, but Robert had already told his sister about his plans to visit.